today we wanted to have a little chat about diets, because everybody talks about diets. You go on any social media, it's this diet, that diet. I remember years ago someone telling me about the Atkins diet, and I was amazed, because they were telling me I could eat cream. But it wasn't quite as straightforward as that. But everybody talks about diets. There's so many different diets out there. It gets very confusing for people. Why shouldn't we really be looking at all of these inverted commas diets?
So most people that contact me are in diet mentality when I meet them for the first time, whether that meeting is over the phone, on a video call, or whether it's in person. I tend to find that most people are in diet mentality. So I can relate to this as well, because I was brought up in a family of women that were constantly on a diet. So my mum, my nan, my auntie, all the women around me really as I was growing up were constantly moving from diet to diet, and they tried all different types of diets. And I even started going to diet clubs, weekly diet clubs with my mum and my sister. So it was a sort of thing, and it's not their fault. It was just the culture that was around then. And we just were born into this culture of diet clubs and weekly weigh-ins and things like that. And I did that for many years, and my family did it for many years, and many of my friends did it for many years. And the thing for me with a diet is that most people don't enjoy the journey. So it's all about the destination of how many stones or pounds the person wants to lose. And it's never really about how many dress sizes they want to drop, or what they want to feel like, or what they want the shape change to be, or even how they feel, most importantly. So it becomes more about depriving yourself of things that your body actually needs to be fueled, rather than actually enjoying foods and thinking of food as fuel, so that it's energy in, energy out. So you're just putting in enough energy that your body actually needs to be fueled. So unfortunately, over the decades, we seem to have come into this diet culture where people are fasting and people are doing little bits of all different diets that exist. Like you mentioned the Atkins diet before, so that's just one of many. And then with the rise of like social media and Instagram and all of that, showing all of these different pages with different examples of different things on it, like you say, it's very confusing, because if you start doing little bits of each of those things, you're probably not going to get great results, because most of those things aren't designed to work together. And then the other thing with diets is as well, if you're just following a diet, to me, I think it's quite soulless. It's quite sort of, you're not part of a community really. And even if you go to a weekly diet club, you might be kind of part of a community for an hour a week. But that's it. And the support, in my personal experience, kind of stops there. So apart from that weekly meeting, there's not really anybody to check with. So unless you're going with your mates, there's not really anybody to check in with. And what I found happened at the weekly diet clubs that I was a member of years ago was people would get a good result, and it was only ever their weight, their body weight, that was being tracked. So they didn't know how much fat they'd lost. They didn't know if their hydration had improved. They didn't know what their bone and muscle mass were doing. So if you don't know what your bone and muscle mass are doing internally, your internal framework could be getting weaker because you're lacking in nutrition, whilst you just lose some, for the sake of losing some weight on the scales, which might not even be fat loss. It could be severe dehydration and muscle wastage, mainly more than bone, but a little bit of both. So you lose a few pounds at a weekly meeting, and most people I found then, as a reward to themselves for losing some weight, would then go to the chippy on the way home, or they would have a takeaway that night because that was their reward for having lost a few pounds. And then they probably wouldn't be very good the day after their weigh-in or the day after that. And then they'd go and have a big blowout at the weekend and use all their sins to drink alcohol and have cake and stuff like that. And then the 2 days before their weekly weigh-in day of the week, they would then like starve themselves, or, you know, the morning of the weigh-in, not have anything to eat, no breakfast, because in fear of it adding weight on the scales. And it just puts people in it makes people obsessed with their weight, their body weight alone. And body weight is only one, not even the most important measure of health, or you know, it doesn't measure people's vitality or how much nutrients they're absorbing in their body. It doesn't indicate how healthy people are. It's not telling us how much internal fat a person has got, which is one of the things that we measure here. So we're actually measuring people's internal fat. So I've just done a review for somebody this morning who's lost 12.5 litres of internal fat from around his internal organs since he started on his journey in January. It's now June. He's been on plan 5 months and he's lost 12.5 litres of internal fat. Diets don't tell you anything like that. And it's a shame, but it's just the way that the world's gone. So what I do is I write people personalised plans and track their entire body composition right the way through, so that we can we're getting people out of diet mentality to try and break that culture.
I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. Do
Yeah.
you not? Yes, I am. Do you not think that sometimes people look at what you're doing and go, this is the same as a diet? Because, okay, what we see is we've got a group of people coming to a club. That's very similar to other clubs that are diet clubs. We've got a group of people who are losing weight, and we see the fact that we've got photo evidence that they're losing weight on a weekly basis. And to some extent, you're providing them with food types or whatever that they can eat and a basis for which to eat them, and therefore that's a diet. So
yeah,
do you see some people would look at that and go, well, but that's basically the same? So how can you, or what would you say to those people to say, well, that is, I understand what you're saying, but this is the difference?
So the difference is that we know a person's body composition. So we don't just weigh people, we know their entire body composition. So we know their body fat percentage. We know how many litres of internal fat they're carrying. We also tell them what category that's in as well. Is it excellent? Is it healthy? Is it bad? Or is it actually alarming and they're at risk of health conditions because of it? We tell people what their bone and muscle mass are doing. We do body measurements with a tape measure. We take progress pictures. We know their hydration levels, whether they're dehydrated or hydrated. And we can benchmark that against healthy ranges for their age and sex as well, and gender. And that's just some of many readings we do on the scale. So when we know their body composition, we can tweak their plan to match what their body composition is doing along with what their goals are. So when we meet them for the first time, we explore their goals. So we don't just assume that everybody wants weight loss, because not everybody that comes to us does. Some people don't have any weight loss goals. They're actually quite happy with their weight, their body weight. They just might want to tone up a bit, lose a bit of body fat, or they actually might want to gain weight in some cases and need building up or gain muscle. Some people literally just go on plan not to move their weight in any, or their body fat in any way, shape or form, but to give them better nutrition, because they might be lacking in some vitamins and minerals, or they might just need a plan to follow because they're a bit clueless about nutrition and they just want a plan to follow to fit in with a busy lifestyle. Also, we give proper coaching support as well. So we guide people through a journey, tracking their results at every stage and their progress at every stage, having discussions with them. And this is really important about what the scales don't tell us. So things like, how do you feel? You know, what has changed for you in a positive way since you started on this journey? How many clothes sizes have you dropped? What's your digestion like? Are you less bloated? Have you got more energy? Their hair, skin, nails improve as well. So all these non-scale victories. Sleep, that's another one as well, another huge one. People can really struggle with their sleep patterns, and usually it's because of something to do with the nutrition and what they're putting in their body on a daily basis. That's actually not the only reason, but it can be a big contributing factor to what good quality sleep they get. So all these things are spoken about, discussed, brought out into the open, celebrated when we have, great results. Just another example from this morning alone is there's a guy called Jeff who comes here. He's type 2 diabetic. When he started in January, he is on the verge of being told he's not type 2 diabetic anymore. So his blood sugars his bloods were reading 66 back in November last year. So this is 2 months before he even started. In March, when he'd been on plan 2 months, they were 34, and he's just awaiting his results of his latest one. 34 isn't even in a category of being at risk of having diabetes. So we're pretty much at the point where he's going to be told he's not type 2 diabetic anymore. These are health results. It's not a diet when it's about health and vitality and energy and mental health as well. That's a huge one. So when people are in a calorie deficit, that's not a healthy calorie deficit, so they're just eating less in order to lose some weight, they're generally undernourished, which means that if they suffer from any kind of mental health issues anyway, then it's not going to help if they're undernourished, let's put it that way. So when people start feeding their cells with cellular nutrition and superfood and actually hitting the recommended daily intake numbers of what their body needs on a daily basis, not only their physical health improves, but their mental health improves as well. And I am an example of that, along with many others that come to this club and that I help online as well. I came off anxiety and depression medication 4 months into my journey, and that's not just me, that's lots of people that I see on a regular and speak to on a regular basis. Their mental health has improved just as much as physical, and I don't think there's many diets out there where that happens so consistently as it does with this. The other thing to note as well, just in answer to your devil's advocate question, this isn't a weekly diet club, so people don't just come here on a Wednesday for a weigh-in. It's not a weigh-in. They're accountable more often than once a week. And this club is open Monday to Saturday. So it's more like a community centre, a safe space for people to come to have a health journey tracked.
There may be some old school who watch this who go, who are still thinking this way. And I don't know how many of these kind of people you still encounter that go, but I always told by my nan, and her nan told my mum, and my mum told me, it's all about just by a balanced diet. As long as you've got some of this on your plate and some of that on your plate, and you don't overdo any of them, it's all fine.
That is correct, isn't it? It is about balance, and that's okay. What we do is we educate and teach people. So we don't eliminate any food groups on these plans. It's about nutrition as a whole. So we actually teach people how to balance their plate in a healthy way to get a good mix of everything. Loads of people avoid certain foods because they've been conditioned to think that if they're on a diet, they can't eat that food. Cheese is a prime example. Healthy fats, generally, people go, oh, can't have that because I'm on a diet. You can have that because your body actually needs healthy fats, but it needs it in the right quantity and the right type. That's the thing. So we need carbohydrates. Our bodies need carbs, but most people have way too many, not enough protein to balance it out, and the wrong type of carbohydrates. That's the difference. So when we give people a plan to follow and we give them the tools and the knowledge to balance their meals correctly, what that does is it balances the blood sugar and insulin levels out. And that's when people stop going into craving mode, where they crave those types of foods and drinks that might have been hampering them before and they didn't even realize.
Now, you can talk about and you can help people with what they put in their mouth. All right. That bit, in a way, if you're guiding them and you're writing a plan for them, and that bit, that's to some extent, that's the easy bit. All right. How do you deal with, or how do you have conversations with people about lifestyle? Because that's the bit that's a bit more difficult, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, if you have two people coming to you, same body composition, etc., but one of them is actively looking to be active and do some exercise or whatever, the other one, because of modern life or because of their situation or whatever, just they're like, I haven't got the time to do this. I literally have to do this and then this in my day, and then I have to taxi this person here or whatever. And it's like, I'd love to go to the gym once a week, but when? How do you deal with those conversations? Because ultimately, there's only so much you can do in terms of what goes in someone's mouth, but if it doesn't get burnt off.
It's not just a one size fits all approach. So it's not that every single lady has the same plan and every single man has the same plan. We're asking them questions in a wellness evaluation when we first meet them on the phone or in person about their lifestyle and current habits. So we're building a picture of what's happening now. So when we've built a picture of what's happening now, we know how much physical activity they're already doing and how much they've got time to do or not, as the case may be. Some people just haven't got the inclination to do exercise. We actually had a lady the other day who said, don't make me exercise because I don't want to. For absolutely fine, as long as she understands that exercising would boost her results a little bit. But the thing with what we do, Herbalife Nutrition is a nutrition company, not a diet company. So we can write a plan for anybody to achieve whatever results they want to achieve. And because we do the body composition readings from the word go, we know how far away they are from their goals. So we can see what the gap is, and then we can write the plan according to that. So when we put them in a calorie deficit, they're not just in a calorie deficit for all women, because all women are completely different. Everybody is different. Yeah. So it's not a one size fits all approach. They would be put on a plan that puts them in a healthy calorie deficit for them, even when exercise isn't included in that calorie burn. So we take exercise out of the equation and put them in a healthy calorie deficit anyway. So then we explain to people, if you exercise, it will boost your results. But if you don't exercise, you'll still get them. You will still get results. It's 80% nutrition, 20% exercise. I'm not saying that you shouldn't exercise. I would never say that, because I'm a very fit and active person and I love exercise. But I used to exercise before I did this. I used to exercise to try and change my body shape. And trust me, I used to work harder in the gym and do a lot more physical activity when I was 4 stone heavier than I do now. And I was training to try and lose weight then. That was my primary goal and my reason for going. Now I exercise because I actually love it and I look forward to it, and it's more for my mental health. And what it's done is having a nutrition plan to follow that can be flexed to suit how active I am or not at that time means that when I exercise, it's taken the pressure off, because I'm no longer exercising to try and be a certain weight. I'm now exercising because I love it and it's good for me.
That makes so much sense. What about if you have someone come to you and they've got a particular health condition or they've got a disability or anything like that prior to starting? Do you need to get additional advice from their medical advisors prior to them starting, or how does that work?
For most health conditions, I would have a pretty good knowledge already, because I've dealt with most of them, unless it's an extremely rare condition that I've not heard of before. Then I would go off and do some research. But I've got a wealth of knowledge available and experience available to me in the community, where there'll be people that have been on these plans and using these products daily for 30, 40 years. That's how long this company's been around and been doing good with people's health. So there's always someone to ask, and there's always someone that's going to have dealt with that thing before. So if it's a rare thing that I've not heard of, then fine. But most of the common health conditions that people have these days, I've dealt with it before, and I've probably already got a client or more than one client who has that health condition. So I've already mentioned Jeff, who was type 2 diabetic. I've also got several clients with diverticulitis. I've got and I deal with many people nowadays, especially women who are being diagnosed with thyroid issues, usually underactive. There's type 1 diabetics. My sister's type 1 diabetic. So is my coach is type 1 diabetic. And it's fantastic for people with diabetes because it really helps balance their blood sugars and insulin levels out. There's usually already some experience there to draw from with most health conditions. Menopausal women we've got a lot of menopausal women that contact me. They tend to find that most of their symptoms, I'm not a medic, and I'm never ever going to make medical claims that I can cure everybody. I'm not saying that at all. But what I can say is that from experience, I've seen people improve and alleviate symptoms in many, many, many areas for many different health conditions, and everybody feels better on plan. I've never to this date known anybody feel worse through improving their nutrition.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you're feeling healthier, if what's going on in your body in terms of digestion, etc., is working better, then you typically do tend to feel better, don't you? Really, we are what we eat.
We are what we eat. We totally are what we eat. I mean, I had, as well as my underactive thyroid, I also had, as I've mentioned, mental health issues, ill health when I started. I also had IBS as well. I've got several inflammatory health conditions. One is called adenomyosis, which is like endometriosis. I've got fibroids and cysts. These were all inflammatory. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them were inflammatory conditions that were being exacerbated by the high sugar in my diet, the too many white carbs, the too much red meat, all the things that were unbalanced in my diet and poor lifestyle choices that I was making were making my health conditions worse. Now that I've got my nutrition on point and I nourish my body and give my body cellular nutrition every day, I literally feel better from the inside out. And I can't even begin to tell you how that's changed my life. And I get people messaging me on a daily basis now, which is the best feeling ever. Even better than me improving my health is when I get messages from other people telling me how this has changed their life for the better and how much better they feel, and that they've got confidence back again, and they just have a normal life and they're not in pain anymore and things like that.
We haven't talked about this before, but you're on the Wirral Nutrition. What happens if someone watches this and they are on the other side of the UK?
Well, even if they're on the other side of the world, as long as Herbalife Nutrition exists in their country, then which is 96 countries we're in. So I've got clients in New Zealand. I've had clients in Australia and America as well. So it doesn't matter where somebody is, I can still help them because I can coach people from a distance as well. So it's just a little bit different. The journey looks a little bit different to coming into club and being seen face to face, but you'd still be part of an incredible community of people online. And you'd still be held accountable just in a slightly different way than face to face. So how I tend to review my online clients is we still do a wellness evaluation. We still use body composition scales. They just send me stuff. I send them their personalized plan. We still have conversations like this that we're doing now. I would do a video call with them on a regular basis and review their progress and tweak their plan accordingly. And if they change anything in their lifestyle, I'll usually know about it before the review anyway, because we're in regular communication with each other. So yeah, it doesn't matter where somebody is, as long as they've got access to the products, then I can still help them.
Well, you mentioned wellness evaluations, which are the thing that you do right at the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
There might be people watching it and go, well, oh yes, but what's the catch? If I come and do a wellness evaluation, how much is it going to cost me? Or what's the catch if I do come and do one?
There is no catch. So there's no obligation in a wellness evaluation. I'm not here to sell anybody anything. That's not my life purpose is not to sell you anything. My life and soul purpose is to help people improve their health the way I've improved mine, because I know how terrible I felt before I had this available to me and how amazing I feel now every day. So my mission is to educate and give people the information that they need to make an informed decision. So a wellness evaluation is a fact-finding and information-giving session, and it's actually free as well. So it doesn't cost anything to find out what a plan would look like for you.